Before we begin our installation, we need to add this white connector to our wiring that comes from the outlet. As you can see, this connector has a large square and a small square. We need to fit these tabs into the small end of this connector. The black wire needs to go into the part with the larger section, and the red one needs to go into the section that's smaller. Now you can double check this by taking your other length of wiring that already has this connected, and if you look in it, you can see that the black wire is going to the top section, and when you connect these, the top section is the larger section. So let's go ahead and take our black wire and our red wire and put them into their position. And then press them up until they both click, and then pull on it to make sure they're not going to come out. Now we can begin working on the bike. The next thing we're going to do for this installation is going to be on the bike. We're going to be drilling a hole in the dashboard. This one has already been drilled, but the process is very simple. Here you'll notice a raised plastic part. You might think this will pop out, but it's molded right into the dash. You won't be able to pry it out. What you do is you measure the distance from each side, find your center point using an 11/16 bit, either a spade bit or any other combination of bits. Slowly drill a hole through. There's nothing directly behind it, so you're not going to be hitting any other wiring, but it's still be careful when you're doing this. Directly behind the part you just drilled, there is a metal square, and it's reinforced all the way around, and there's 4 pegs. What we're going to do, using either a metal file or a Dremel with a sanding disc, is we're going to be removing a little bit of the metal from this point over to here. The reason we're doing this is so that we can fit this ring behind and into the gap in between the metal and the plastic. This has already been done, so I'll show you what you're trying to achieve. You're going to be wanting to remove the metal very slowly, because all we want to do is to be able to get this to fit in there, and once we get it in there, it won't move. That way, when we're putting our outlet through and we're turning the outlet, this will stay put, and then it'll clamp it towards each other. So when you have enough metal removed, it'll fit in just like so. So as you're taking off the metal, just do it really slowly, do it a little bit at a time. You can notice that when I was using my file, I took a little bit of the plastic off, but the outlet covers it. It's not a big deal. But just take your time while you're doing it, and eventually it'll fit into place. Included in your kit, you have your outlet and the custom tool that comes with it. And the way the tool works is there's 2 slits, one on either side, and this fits right into those slits. And then this tool is used to rotate your outlet. Now take the rubber piece that came with the kit and fit it over the end of the wiring and push it all the way up to the outlet. Then take the wiring and feed it through the hole. And put the end of the outlet through the nut. Then make sure as it starts to get tighter that you get your rubber piece and the outlet positioned where you want it, and then finish tightening it up. And there we go, we have our outlet installed into the dash. On the right hand side of your bike, we're going to be removing the plastic cover that covers your battery. To do that, you're going to need a 5mm hex key, and then pull out and down, and this reveals the metal cover covering your battery. You're going to need a 6mm hex to remove these 4 bolts. And then pull the cover off to reveal our battery. Using an 8mm socket, we're going to remove the bolt holding the grounds. This is it has a rounded top. Go ahead and completely remove it. This cable connecting the positive to the battery, we're going to pull that out of its clip. And now we can remove the battery. To do that, just pull on it, turn it all the way, and then you can set it on your foot peg and your brake cable. Now we have complete access to the positive terminals. Now we're going to start attaching wiring from the kit. Go ahead and pull out the long wiring with the fuse holder and remove the top portion. You'll see there's no fuse in it. Set the top off to the side. Take a 4mm hex. Move this plastic terminal cover down, and you'll see 2 wires. Let's see if I can move those out a little. You have one on the right and one on the left. We're going to use the one on the left. And using your 4mm hex, go ahead and loosen that bolt until you have enough room where you can slide the positive wire from the kit. So periodically check to see if you have enough slack. Looks like we do. Alright, then go ahead and tighten that up. And then push your rubber terminal cover back on best you can. Now we're going to put the battery back in. To do that, pick it up, turn it, take your wiring and make sure it's all out of the way, and slide it back into position. Okay? Take the positive, and push that back under the clip, and let's get our wires in order here. Now, since this is going to be your fuse connection, we want to keep this accessible. So your best bet is to have it somewhere around here. We need enough slack so that we can get this over to here. So what we're going to do now is we're going to make a small slit into this plastic black cover so that we can pull more of our wire this way. So I'm going to use a razor blade. You can use whatever you like, just make sure you don't cut the wires behind it. So do it lightly. That'll let us pull more of the wire in the direction we need it. So now the order for connecting the wiring this wire, the smaller of the two main ones, you notice you have a raised portion. This is going to go that direction, and then this one is going to go on top of it, and then this one is going to go on top of that. Now when you connect these two, there's going to be a little sparking. That's normal. We're just going to take our last wire, put that on. And then before we completely tighten it up, we're going to take our black plate and we're going to make sure that all of our wiring is out of the way enough to accommodate this plate. And you can see it needs to be at the right angle. Otherwise it won't fit out of the way. And it looks like we're going to be okay. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and take some of the bolts that hold this plate and get those into position. And be careful when you're putting this one in. It's easy to drop it into the fairing. Now that we know that everything is where we want it, take our 8mm socket. We're going to tighten that up. Okay. And take the other end of that wiring and fit it through behind this bar. And pull it back towards yourself. Our next step is going to be to feed our wiring up into the upper portion of the motorcycle. And to do this, we're going to be routing the wire very close to the fairing, up and out here. The way this is going to work, if you take a small flashlight and shine it in this direction, close to the fairing, and look up this way, you'll see where the opening is. There's 2 or 3 different holes that you can route your wiring through. The best way to do this, within the kit, there's a piece of hard wire. Take the end of your plug, the white plug, take this wiring and feed it straight through, wrap it around the wiring. Then take a pair of pliers and squish down that point so that nothing's sticking up. Then straighten out the remaining wiring. And this will take a few tries probably, but we're going to push it straight up until it goes through. There it is. And then you have your other end of the wiring. And then you can pull it slowly to the upper portion. And then pull it until you have all the slack. Now we have our wiring into the upper portion of our bike. Take your pliers again and remove the wire from the wiring. We're ready to route this up towards the outlet. Once you have the wiring routed up to the upper portion of the bike, There's a couple different ways that you can route it to get to the outlet. On some models, you can remove the bolt holding this plastic cover down, lift up the front part, slide this under, and then route it up and connect it to the outlet. Or in some models, you can go around the front and zip tie it to some of the wiring that's behind the dash. It's your decision how you'd like to do that. The last step in the portion of the upper part of your bike is to take the wiring that we ran from the battery compartment and connect it to the plug connected to your outlet, and then using a pair of pliers pull these tight together so they snap in real secure. Then take some electrical tape and wrap it all the way from back here around the whole thing over to about here in an effort to keep the elements, the water and all that out of the connection. After you've finished your connection with the wiring and have it all taped up, use some zip ties and make sure that all your wiring is secure, that it's not going to interfere with the movement of your handlebars or any other functions of the bike. Last step of our installation is to put the fuse into the fuse holder. So we're going to have to take off this black plate one more time. The reason we didn't put the fuse in earlier was because we had to put that metal wire through the electrical connection to pull it up to the upper part of the bike, and if we had left the fuse in, then it would have popped it. So take off the plate, and then pull out the fuse holder. Take your fuse, put it in, take the cap, put that on, tuck it back in, and then all we have to do is put our plate and our cover on, and the installation is complete. And now our installation is complete.